Um, I did just send out a note to the mailing list. It's way too late, so I don't expect too many people to attend. But I did remind the mailing list that tonight was going to be our talk about Edk2 platforms. I suggested in the note that if we don't get enough representation, we could delay it till next week. It looks that way, but let's see what happens. Other topics for tonight? Does anyone have opens or things they want to share?
Well, what's going on with the container series? It's December 5th now.
I keep checking daily and I don't see our CI going down.
It went down
Yeah.
for a day. I think it was advertised as a brownout for 1 day of beginning of December. And from the message I saw, it looks like it's not actually going to be lights out until March next year.
I see.
So the brownout was effective because our CI was down for a day. So it's a good way to raise the awareness.
It went down though because it couldn't like access the package repository. When I looked at it, it was all about OVMF. It couldn't.
Yes.
When it tried to install QEMU. When it tried to install QEMU, it couldn't do it.
Right. And I don't know what that meant as far as what it switched to. Did they switch us to the latest?
No, it still was a 1804.
Okay.
That's why it was really odd to me. And I was like, okay, well, and then it looked like just a, network connectivity problem, which is what we've seen, with QEMU and package repositories every once in a while.
Okay. But it was a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
Because the message on, I remember seeing the message about the brownout if I followed the links.
Yes, I agree. I would have expected them to say like there's no agents available or something, right?
Right. Yes.
That would have been a brownout that would have made perfect sense to me. It would have held up everything. Yeah.
Well, where did you think we stand on getting that in? It looked like most of the feedback had been resolved last time I looked.
Going to bring up his latest series. So I know you and Chris were reviewing it with Oliver. He's got a V10 patch series with 17 patches.
Yeah, eventually I think I went through all of them toward the end because most of them turned into copying and pasting the same things in different packages. And usually in their pipelines folders.
Okay, I will go ask him to stage a PR and then we'll add the push tag because it looks like he does need to add a final reviewed by to number 16, which is not in his series, but you have reviewed it. So let's try to get that done this week. And then I think that will coincide nicely with your wiki update for building, and it has details on how to use containers.
Yes, I sent V2 out. As people may have seen, the second and fourth patches don't make it through groups.io. I'm not 100% sure why, but they do render fine on GitHub. And those contain the manual instructions for building with Stuart, and then the container instructions to get started. I think we can definitely expand upon both of those. And it updates a lot, every reference I could find in the wiki with build instructions to point to a new top level build instruction page that points to the container page and the Stuart page, and also talks about the build command. So anyone that lands on any of the build related pages that existed, they'll see a banner at the top that redirects them here, but those pages are mostly left intact. There were a few pages that just had things so weird that I changed it because they were talking about like using Python 2.7, or they were referencing a file in the code tree that no longer exists. So things like that I updated but for the most part, everything is still there if people were using it for reference. And then kind of the same thing in the EDK code tree, various readmes that were out there, I just pointed them there. Some of the readmes in like OVMF, ARMvert, and emulator package, they already talked about Stuart, and the instructions were accurate, so those were left as is. And I just said, like, if you want more background on Stuart, you can go read the wiki page. So it was mostly adding those new pages and then just moving references around to them in the different places. That being said, we might want to go back through and actually delete or update some of those other pages because they are kind of confusing now. We do have like 7 pages or something on the wiki talking about build. And they're at varying levels of relevance at this point.
Yeah, the one suggestion I heard when it came to deleting wiki pages was to do a redirect. You can delete all the content, but just say this topic has been moved or centralized in this location and give a link to the better location in case anybody has it in there.
Yeah.
Has cached that link somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's taken care of. It'd just be the matter of whether we want to delete the content or not. I didn't want to go that far in this in this series, but if we do like a cleanup at some point, I think the banner will make it obvious that we have new instructions and it can be deleted in those files if we want.
Sounds good. Any other topics, I guess?
Where are we on code coverage?
So we were just briefly talking about that. Getting code coverage out of the OVMF CI. No, code coverage is already in, right? It's really just this new OVMF CI stuff that is to automatically run some of the tests.
So the Open CPP coverage and LCOV GCOV for unit test is checked in now.
I thought that patch series got in. I'm going to look. I mean, I have no better way than just look through the history of the files. I know that it impacted. I can't make heads or tails out of my email, and if there's another follow-on series.
Was it a new plugin type in the Pytools?
The code coverage, it updated the plugin. There's already in the runner.
For the unit test?
Unit test runner.
Pilot plugin, okay.
Yeah.
No.
No, it didn't look it's there. Nope. Okay. I thought that had I sent my review by on that one a long time ago, I thought. And I thought the latest one we were talking about was getting OVMF up for testing.
Okay, let's follow up with the submitter and see where we're at on that.
Okay.
And kind of another random topic, it's a series that kind of got like orphaned off a while ago, is removing UGA support from the EDK2 repositories. And I think they had proposed, there were a set of patches that were proposing a phased approach where first we would remove the use of UGA from modules and libraries, and then give downstream platforms a chance to do the same, and then delete the UGA definitions from the MDE package. And I'm curious if there's concerns at all about that, A, removing UGA, and B, the approach.
Sounds good. I mean, I think in some of our libraries, we've had it gone for, I think, 7 years. And we haven't seen any negative impact of that.
Okay, I'll see if I can't get that one resurrected again and moving forward. I think that's a good cleanup out of the modules. There's some modules that have a lot of UGA content in them for the if, you know, the if corner case GOP versus UGA.
Yep. Any other opens from anyone?
Someone from Canonical sent an emails asking about breaking changes. Did you have thoughts on that, Mike? I think that you were on that mail.
When was it sent?
Let me find it. It was the maintainer of the, I thought it was the UEFI stuff in Ubuntu or something. Trying to find the email now.
Oh, the virtual, the 1024 virtual CPUs.
Maybe he listed like 3 things that broke them.
No, it
in
was the Dan Fraser. It was
Yeah.
4:09 p.m. today.
Yeah. And I was wondering if we had thoughts on the process to use for that.
Okay. So yeah, I think so. Good. I'm glad Lemming's here. So I do believe that there's 2 ways to address any change that's considered a compatibility change from either an API perspective or even from a platform build perspective. The first is always has to be documented, and I think that can be documented in release notes. The second one is what they're suggesting is make sure that if you retire something, you know, have a way to break the build if you discover somebody continuing to use that configuration setting. I think especially at the platform scope, that sounds like a great idea as well. I just think we have some work to do to identify the types of changes that require this this type of build break mechanism, and then educate our developers and reviewers to make sure we follow through with it. That first one's a little complicated to enumerate the scenarios we think it's important to break the build across if there's continued use of something that's changed.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. We just have to find a way to enforce it, I guess, or standardize it.
I mean, it kind of becomes the main problem, though, that we've talked about, which is how long do you keep it in there, right? So if you were to put a flag that said if this, you know, HTTP boot enabled was set to true, we should break the build and put out an error message. You have to keep it for eternity or a couple years or some like ungodly number of, you know, releases before it'll catch everybody.
Right.
And we just have junk all over at that point.
Yeah, and if they're platform scoped things, for like a DSC for a specific platform, that might be okay. Having that contamination to our more common areas is, I think, where that buildup becomes more annoying.
I mean, to me, this kind of gets into the EDK2 platforms conversation of like, is OVMF a platform and something that EDK2, and when you release the stable tag, you know, the TianoCore organization stands behind the OVMF release that says this is great for every Linux vendor to pick up?
Yeah, it has that challenge both directions. At this time, I think it serves the dual purpose of a virtual platform that we can use to verify EDK2 changes within CI without a real physical target, and it serves the dual purpose of being a product virtual firmware image.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is one of the roots of the problem there is, and also, you know, OVMF has about 12,000 different ways to configure it with different options, and different hypervisor support, and, you know, whether you have confidential computing and different technologies turned on or not. Like, that seems like a big thing that if we were going to really be the release management for that, there'd probably be a lot more focused testing going in on that.
Yep. Now, I will point out one of the items they mentioned here is actually focused only within the network package, not in the OVMF. So it does extend beyond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the other thing. So, you know, we briefly talked about it a few months ago, and then I think Michael has been working on, you know, automatic release notes and kind of using GitHub for labels and all sorts of things like that. That's something that we've tried to roll into Project Mu over the last few weeks. That would help, you know, make this burden a little easier. Again, I don't know if that's the complete answer, but that is one way that would potentially help improve our release notes and do better tracking of all the changes that go into a stable tag.
Yeah, if you're interested in getting a look at the release draft portion of that, you can check this out. I'll put a link. So what this there's quite a few things that we've incorporated, but as far as releases go, what we're doing right now is we have an action that runs on every single PR getting merged, and that PR has a set of labels in it that describes the type of change. So and I guess I'll share my screen real quick, 'cause it'll be easier to explain. But so whenever like you're looking at this, you can see version 1.0.0 came out, and I started labeling this repo and then realized that semantic versioning is kind of annoying to manually deal with. So I wanted to automatically have the semantic version be generated based on the type of change. If it's a bug fix, we roll the patch version. If it's a backward compatible fix, we roll the minor. And for breaking changes, we roll the major. So that's kind of where this flow came in, is it looks at the type of change coming in, and then it automatically rolls the semantic version on every single change to the repo. So you can see it was at 1.0.0, and then a feature came in. And because it was a feature, that rolled the version to 1.1.0. And I've incorporated the PR message in the release notes. So you can click the PR if you want to, of course, but you can also just click this and it will show you the notes from the PR. So it's pretty easy to go through at a high level and get an idea of what's going on. Here a bug fix came in, so version 1.1.0 became 1.1.1. Again, click that and I see what that bug fix was for. And just earlier today, 9 hours ago, another change came in. This one was not labeled as a bug fix or anything. So in that case, it rolls the patch version. And so the patch version went from 1.1.1 to 1.1.2. And you can see that this one's a draft. So it actually keeps an ongoing draft of every single change in the repo. So at any given time, I can come see the release notes of what's been done in the repo, and then all I have to do is hit publish. So I have like a nice view of what my semantic version is and what my changes are. It's all automatically generated. I just have to come in and publish it whenever I'm ready to do a release based on it. So this is something I've been experimenting with to basically enforce semantic versioning so that it's followed based on the type of changes rather than a human having to remember when to update things, but also to auto-generate the release notes as a draft, and then whenever you can come look at this draft and have a very good idea of what you're going to release, you can just hit the publish button and you're done.
But it only shows the changes from the last release, and if it's tracking releases like this with Semver at every single PR, then when you go to do a full release after 10 or 20 changes have been done, how do you get the combined release notes?
It builds up the combined notes over time. So I actually published 1.1.1. That's why it didn't combine that with 1.1.2. But you can see, I don't think I've done one where I've let them go together yet. I do on my fork actually, but here we go. here on my fork, I did let them pile up. So you can see it piled them up to this 0.3.0 release, and it has one feature and 2 bug fixes in that. Here's one that has a lot of changes, features, bug fixes, and documentation updates.
It does depend upon the labeling to be done correctly manually, right? That's the manual step, is to properly mark each PR as a document or a bug fix or a feature or an enhancement, right?
Yeah, I've kind of resolved that problem by automating the labeling as well. So I have this file in here called go back. So I have a file in here that actually defines all the labels for the project, and this file gets synced to every repo. So every single repo has the exact same labels defined the exact same way. And so there's other actions that run onto something like there's this one called labeler, and labeler will actually apply labels to the PR based on different aspects of the PR. So I'll show you real quick. You can, if I go look at these PRs, you can see they're pretty labeled up. It wasn't turned on 14 days ago. I think I turned this on last week. So ever since it's been turned on, for the most part, we have a good amount of labels going on. So I can immediately see what the breaking changes are. I can see which ones are bugs, which ones are enhancements, which ones impact security. And that's all done by these checkboxes. So there's a template that's also auto-synced to every repo. And that template has these checkboxes. And so you can see the person here checked the impact security checkbox. So that added that label. Now, if I'll just do this and I'll change it back. But if I check the breaking change checkbox, what it's going to do is it's going to detect that I did that, and now it's going to apply issue and PR labels. And that action is going to see that I checked the breaking change checkbox, and now it's going to add the breaking change label. See, it automatically happened. Now, if I uncheck breaking change, let me go back. If I uncheck breaking change, the action will run again, and it will remove the label. So there's several other layers of automation here. It also regexes some things in the message and some other things, but I'm trying to get the label application process to be as consistent and as easy as possible. For the most part, people just need to check a few boxes and they'll get the right labels. Anyways, that was just showing like an idea about how to do releases based on labels and then how to consistently try to apply labels.
Have we applied this to the Pytools repos, or that's what you're thinking of going maybe next?
We haven't gone to Pytools yet. This is only impacting the Mu repos at the moment. It's all centralized in this Mu DevOps repo. So the main idea here is we centralize all of our infrastructure in one place, and then we have it applied to the project. So we want the repos to focus on repo work. We don't want them to focus on pipelines and all this other stuff. So that all happens here, but we could do it in Pytools. That's in the TianoCore organization. So it's a little outside the bounds of the Mu stuff. That's why I brought up that this is in Mu DevOps. But if we're interested in trying these flows out in Pytools, we can. I'd be happy to bring them over there.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking we'd give this maybe a few more weeks to run and kind of work out some kinks, and then the hope would be bring it to at least Pytools, but then hopefully bring it up here for more broad application across TianoCore.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the other things that's there, it's pretty useful, is there's a sync process that actually syncs files to every repo. So things like licensing files, we actually sync from a central copy. So if we need to do something like update files that we often distribute to many places, like you could think about it in Edk2, like a file that might go to many packages or something like that, or between Edk2 platforms and Edk2. Those are all centralized here. And so I can go to something like GitHub templates and licensing, and I can see the 3 different types of licenses here. And there's a file here that specifies how every single file gets mapped from this repo to another repo. So you can see like it's saying, I'm taking this pipeline file and I'm going to map it from this repos folder to the destination repo folder. And I'm going to do it for these repos. So that way we only change the file in one place and we can push it to as many repos as we want, and we can kind of map between any source and any destination path that we want to in that process. So that's also been kind of useful for keeping files in order and kind of centralized across the repos.
I mean, this is all part of our point around, you know, if you go with a multi-repo strategy and have nice repository boundaries that reflect your teams and reflect organizations and usage, it comes with baggage and overhead, right? And I think some of why Pytools was created was for that overhead. And then we're kind of exploring some of the other parts about repo management and how we can minimize that overhead. And I think this would come into the conversation around Edk2 platforms, because I think we've always argued that really it should not be a big mono repo with a whole bunch of different people in it. You know, it's easier to manage a platform repo. It has a lifetime. It has a group of people that are interested in that platform, and they manage the repo. Then they can use submodules to pull in their Edk2, and they can manage that integration effort. And it's just got a really nice flow to it. It does come at the cost of repo management and other things. And I think, again, we're looking at ways to minimize the cost of repo management.
Yeah, so I think at least we'll have maybe useful data or input to the platform's discussion if we need something like that.
One other note on, thanks you, Michael. That's very interesting. I think we should continue to look at that as you get some more confidence in it. There's another set of issues that were entered against the Pytool repos about the Python version that's assumed. Evidently there's a syntax available in setup.py that we have not updated. It says we ran into some issues where developers were on Python 3.8 updated to the latest pip requirements, and then it broke with a exception out of Python that with no indication of what was actually wrong. And it turns out that they needed to be at Python 3.9 or higher. And so there is a way such that pip install will fail if the Python interpreter associated with pip is not at above a certain level. And so I think we need to make sure that when we make updates to the Pytool's repos that assume a minimum level of Python, that's properly expressed in the setup.py file.
Yeah, I know Joey has the PR up for it right now to add that to setup .py. So I think we'll do that going forward. At least I talked to Joey about it, and we both agreed that that was the right thing to do going forward.
Okay. And the second thing might be, I know there's a way to do a matrix of tests against multiple Python versions. So I think once we've got the set of Python versions that we know we have supported, make sure that those are in CI. That way we'll get a CI failure if somebody introduces a use of a feature that's only available in something newer than the oldest one currently tested. And then we have the choice. Do we do a compatible change or do we change the minimum version in setup.py?
Yes, and I believe that one is there as well. Let me put that one up.
It's another PR open in the Pytool library right now.
Yes.
So we added a matrix to go from 3.9 to 3.11.
Sounds great.
It looks like we also added some badges for all three of the test runs. So we should have good visibility into the supported versions, and if that were to change, it'd be obvious.
Yeah, hopefully it blocks the PR until it's resolved either by doing the compatible change or updating setup.py in your matrix to the new range.
Yep, exactly. I don't remember, Michael, if there was any reason these were waiting or if we just, because Joey was out for 2 weeks there, if we just hadn't got them merged yet.
He was out and then he needed to do some updates when he got back, and he messaged me earlier today and I just didn't get to it yet, but I think it's ready to go at this point.
Okay, great. All right, anything else from anyone? Is anyone here tonight to talk about Edk2 Platforms?
Did we have like an agenda for that we were going to send out, or maybe I missed it if it was sent out, or did we kind of just want to go ad hoc in the conversation?
So far, we didn't have an agenda, and because I didn't get the email out during last week, yeah, that's probably where I would have written up an agenda. Honestly, I don't quite know where to go with this. Again, myself and I think you, Michael, are not maintainers, so I don't know how much sway we have. Obviously, we're heavily involved in the CI system, and we know how to plug in platforms into a CI system. And we know how, at least personally, I know how I would try to enable this. But I think I struggle a little bit to figure out where to start with this unless we start getting some real feedback from the Edk2 platform maintainers and where they want to take this.
I'd suggest trying to get at least Nate and Andrew Fish here for the discussion, and see if they know of others that are available in this time zone that they would recommend. So maybe you can reach out to them early this week, Sean, and see if we can't get enough representation for next Monday's call.
Okay. Hopefully I'll get an answer back and I can put together at least a brief outline to help drive the conversation. Yeah. Okay, well, if nothing else, then we can be good for tonight. We'll probably have one more meeting this year, so let's hopefully have a good one next week. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye
Mike.
bye. Bye bye.